Hello friends. What happens when fire meets water, not in destruction, but in the dance of the stars? When a Sagittarius man, free-spirited and restless, crosses paths with a Pisces woman, dreamy and emotionally vast, the result is anything but predictable. Welcome to the cosmic paradox of Sagittarius and Pisces, a duo that both baffles and bewitches astrologers. Let's take a long, deep dive into their universe. From the magnetic pull of romance to the tests of teamwork, here's everything you need to know about the dynamic compatibility between a Sagittarius man and a Pisces woman. Love, the wild archer and the water muse. From the very first moment their eyes meet, there's a quiet electricity in the air, something invisible, inexplicable, yet undeniably powerful. He walks in like he owns the wind itself, confident, curious, and radiating that untamed Sagittarius charm. You can practically smell the adventure on him, earthy, sun-warmed, with hints of jet lag and freshly brewed coffee from some tiny cafe in a faraway country. He speaks in anecdotes, jokes that border on the outrageous, and metaphors about the universe. The Pisces woman, on the other hand, is an enigma. She's not trying to be mysterious, but everything about her is softly poetic. She holds her teacup like it's a secret. Her eyes shimmer with untold stories, and her aura wraps around her like fog over a lake at dawn. He notices her not because she demands attention, but because she doesn't. While others compete for spotlight, she quietly draws the light toward her. Sagittarius sees her as a dream made real, a living paradox. How can someone seem so wise, so innocent, so endlessly deep all at once? Her presence both soothes and intrigues him. For the Pisces woman, this magnetic stranger bursts into her life like a scene from one of the old romance novels she secretly reads. He's bold where she's reserved, loud where she's soft, fast where she drifts slowly. And yet, something about him feels safe. Not because he's stable, he rarely is, but because he's honest. Purely, unapologetically honest. In a world where Pisces constantly second-guesses others' intentions, his directness is refreshing. Their early connection is filled with magical contradictions. He teases her out of her shell with tales of his latest spontaneous escapade, she enchants him with vulnerable confessions and spiritual insights he didn't even know he needed. They spend hours talking, about art, about galaxies, about whether soulmates exist. He offers her the sky. She offers him the stars he didn't know he was missing. But as time moves on, so do the stars, and the real tests begin. Sagittarius is fire, quick, unpredictable, bold. He follows inspiration like a comet, never lingering too long. He needs space, movement, challenge. Pisces is water, fluid, emotional, deeply intuitive. She craves connection, emotional harmony, and shared stillness. While he lives for what's next, she lingers in what's now. She wants to feel him emotionally present, he wants to feel free to leave and return without guilt. And here's where it starts to hurt. His jokes about never settling down aren't malicious, but they hit her like emotional earthquakes. She doesn't need a ring tomorrow, but she needs to know she matters, that this means something. Meanwhile, her quiet tears and questioning texts can make him feel suffocated, as though her love comes with unspoken conditions. He's thinking of booking a solo trip to Norway, she's dreaming of a life where they wake up every day beside each other. Yet, within this clash of elements lies rare potential. If, and it's a big if, Sagittarius learns that intimacy isn't confinement, but rather expansion of a different kind, he can offer her his heart as freely as he offers his stories. And if Pisces realizes that true love doesn't mean constant presence, but deep emotional trust, she can stop holding on so tightly and let the love breathe. He teaches her to leap before thinking. She teaches him to feel before speaking. In each other's arms, they find a version of themselves they hadn't met before. Their love is not for the faint-hearted. It requires patience, self-awareness, and mutual growth. But if they make it work, theirs is a story for the ages, not neat, not easy, but incandescent. A living poem. A fire that dances with the tide. And maybe, just maybe, the kind of love that teaches the world something it didn't know about itself. Sex, ecstasy meets exploration. When a Sagittarius man and a Pisces woman come together intimately, it's not just a union of bodies, it's the intersection of fantasy and fire, a moment when the wildest dream meets the freest spirit. Their sexual connection defies traditional labels. It's not just passionate. It's not just romantic. It's a cosmic encounter that feels like falling into the unknown and loving every second of it. Sagittarius, ever the explorer, brings boldness and a refreshing sense of play. He's not one to overthink things, he follows impulse, desire, the thrill of what's next. Sex, for him, is an exhilarating journey, not just a destination. He craves movement, novelty, unpredictability. One night it's playful wrestling on the couch, the next it's slow dancing under moonlight that somehow turns into making love outdoors. He'll whisper something outrageous in her ear just to see her laugh, or suggest a wild new idea in the middle of things just to keep the moment alive. For him, pleasure is as much about fun and freedom as it is about physical sensation. He thrives in the excitement of the unknown. Pisces, meanwhile, approaches intimacy like an artist painting a canvas. For her, physical closeness isn't a casual act, it's deeply sacred. She doesn't give her body unless her soul is already leaning in. Her sensuality is layered, intuitive, and often emotionally charged. She craves a sense of emotional security before she can fully open up. Eye contact, gentle touches, whispered reassurances, these are her aphrodisiacs. She wants to feel chosen, cherished, understood. And when she does, her passion flows like liquid silk. She becomes an immersive, giving, almost otherworldly lover. Every movement is tender and intentional, every sound a form of poetry. At first glance, their approaches seem misaligned. Sagittarius is spontaneous, often impulsive, living fully in the now. Pisces is dreamy, tender, and often needs time to emotionally warm up. He may dive in fast, while she needs to wade in slowly. He jokes, she whispers. He wants a spark, she wants a symphony. Without understanding, this contrast can cause friction. He may view her emotional needs as overly sensitive or complicated. She may perceive his lightheartedness as emotional detachment or shallowness. But here's the beauty, they can learn from each other and, if they do, unlock a connection that is not just satisfying but transformative. If Sagittarius learns to slow his pace, not entirely, but just enough to tune in to her rhythms, he'll discover that vulnerability is not a detour, but a deepening. He'll find that being fully present in her emotional world doesn't kill the fire, it makes it burn hotter and longer. That her need for connection isn't a barrier to fun, but a doorway to a more profound, more soulful experience of passion. He might find that the look in her eyes right before he touches her becomes more addictive than any thrill-seeking rush he's ever known. On her side, if Pisces allows herself to relax into his freedom, she'll discover the joy of surrendering not just emotionally but playfully. She'll see that sex can be spontaneous without being meaningless. That laughter and wildness don't take away from intimacy, they enhance it. In his embrace, she might find the courage to express desires she's long kept secret, to explore pleasure with a newfound boldness she didn't think lived inside her. When they find that balance, when his fire warms her water and her depth anchors his flame, they create something incredibly rare. Their bedroom becomes not just a physical space, but an emotional retreat, a spiritual playground, a creative collaboration. Some nights it's slow and cinematic, others it's chaotic and unfiltered. But always, it's real. Raw. Alive. Their physical chemistry is like music that doesn't need lyrics. It flows, improvises, rises, and falls. It doesn't follow a script, it responds to breath, to energy, to the unspoken. Together, they turn intimacy into art, blending passion and presence in a way that's unforgettable. This isn't just sex, it's transcendence. And for both of them, it might just be where they feel most free. Marriage, the tides and the flame. Marriage between a Sagittarius man and a Pisces woman is less of a planned itinerary and more of an epic, unscripted journey. It's not the kind of partnership that fits neatly into white picket fences and synchronized schedules. No, this is marriage as a myth, raw, alive, filled with highs that echo through the soul and lows that ask for more than patience, they demand transformation. It is, at times, wild and stormy, like a sea voyage without a map. But it's also soulful and sacred, offering both partners a chance to grow in ways neither could have imagined before they met. The Sagittarius man does not step into marriage the way others do. For him, commitment is not about settling down, but expanding up. He's not looking for comfort, he's seeking a co-adventurer, someone who can hike through spiritual landscapes with him, who's willing to question life's big meanings at 2 a.m., who doesn't panic when he books a last-minute trip to Bhutan instead of scheduling date night. His love language is freedom, and he sees marriage not as a contract, but as a living, evolving promise. Expect a wedding that takes place on a mountaintop at sunrise, with vows written on the back of a napkin. Expect anniversaries spent hang gliding, diving into turquoise oceans, or meditating in silence on distant islands. To him, traditional roles feel suffocating. He wants a wife, yes, but not in the historical sense. He wants a best friend who can challenge him, a lover who understands wanderlust, and a partner who doesn't clip his wings in the name of responsibility. He thrives when his spouse sees his soul, not just his schedule. His ideal marriage is fluid, constantly shifting, rooted not in routine but in mutual discovery. And while he can be fiercely loyal, the moment he feels caged, his fire flickers. He needs to roam, even if just metaphorically. The Pisces woman, however, dreams of something different. She imagines a love so deep it borders on spiritual possession, a partner who finishes her sentences, knows her soul's weather without words, and never leaves without emotional clarity. She wants to be seen fully, to merge hearts in a way that transcends time and space. Her idea of marriage is built on emotional intimacy, quiet rituals, and tender reassurances. While she may love the idea of a sunrise ceremony or a spontaneous getaway, she also needs to know that when she cries, he'll stay. That when the world feels heavy, he'll sit beside her, not vanish into a foreign skyline. So when he disappears for a solo trip to find himself in Peru, without checking in for 3 days, it's not just inconvenient, it feels like abandonment. She spirals not because she's needy, but because emotional consistency is her oxygen. She needs to feel tethered, not to control him, but to stay emotionally safe. Without that tether, her fears take over, and the marriage risks capsizing in its own contradictions. And yet, this is where the real transformation begins. When Pisces reaches into her own strength, when she rises into her higher self, she realizes something incredible: love does not mean ownership. She doesn't need to follow him across the world to be close. She can float beside him in trust. She can hold emotional depth while allowing physical distance. She becomes the wind in his sails, not the weight on his wings. Her love expands, becomes less fearful and more faithful. She stops seeking his constant presence and starts trusting the strength of their bond. And in doing so, she becomes even more magnetic to him. For the Sagittarius man, the magic happens when he matures past the need to outrun depth. When he stops seeing emotional intensity as something to avoid and starts recognizing it as the gateway to true connection. Pisces teaches him what it means to be vulnerable without being trapped. She invites him to sit with silence, to be still in love, to explore the world within instead of constantly chasing the world beyond. He realizes that commitment isn't the enemy of freedom, it's the foundation that allows him to leap higher. Their marriage will never be conventional, and that's exactly what makes it remarkable. They will argue, yes, over missed texts, over expectations unspoken, over fears and freedom colliding. But they will also create a love that evolves, a relationship that bends but never breaks. Their bond becomes a living poem, messy, raw, beautiful, and utterly unforgettable. They may not always understand each other in the moment, but they will always return to one another with deeper awareness. If they commit to growth, not just to each other, but to their own emotional evolution, they will build a marriage that defies logic. A marriage that doesn't look perfect from the outside, but feels perfect to them. One that dances through storms, laughs through the chaos, and burns brightly long after others have dimmed. Together, they write their own mythology. A marriage of tide and flame. Ever changing. Ever passionate. And perhaps, eternal. Friendship, the dreamer and the joker. Can a Sagittarius man and a Pisces woman be true, lasting friends? Not only can they, but sometimes, friendship is where their connection shines the brightest. This bond, unbound by the intensity of romance or the expectations of long-term commitment, becomes a sanctuary for both. It's where their spirits can meet without pressure, where their differences become playful contrasts instead of relationship roadblocks. In the realm of friendship, the dreamer and the joker discover something rare, a kind of cosmic comedy in their connection. They make each other laugh, think, cry, and grow, all while orbiting each other in beautifully unpredictable patterns. The Sagittarius man, with his quick wit, endless anecdotes, and refreshingly honest worldview, becomes an anchor of levity in Pisces' often emotionally turbulent sea. He's the friend who shows up with plane tickets instead of flowers, who texts, "Get dressed, we're going somewhere weird," without explanation. He makes her laugh when she's spiraling, nudges her gently when she's doubting herself, and never lets her forget that she is, in fact, made of magic. He's not just the life of the party, he's the spark that makes the party happen. And for Pisces, who often hesitates to take up space or question her own worth, this unwavering belief in her light can be profoundly healing. He encourages her to share her poetry, to paint without perfection, to turn that vague spiritual idea into something real. He'll drag her out of her comfort zone not to mock her caution, but to remind her that the world isn't as scary as she sometimes believes. His presence says, "You can do this." And over time, she starts to believe it. Pisces, in turn, is the first person Sagittarius feels safe telling the truth behind the jokes. With everyone else, he's the funny guy, the wanderer, the one who doesn't get tied down. But Pisces sees through that. She listens between the lines. She notices the sadness tucked inside his laughter and doesn't push it away. With her, he can finally exhale. He can cry, confess, collapse, and know she won't see him as weak. She's intuitive enough to recognize what he doesn't say, and gentle enough to wait until he's ready to say it. In her soft, non-judgmental way, Pisces becomes his emotional refuge. She teaches him how to stay still without feeling stuck, how to reflect without self-punishment. And while Sagittarius may never become the most emotionally fluent man in the room, around her, he starts to open in ways that surprise even himself. Her quiet loyalty, her ability to hold space without demanding anything in return, it touches him more deeply than he ever admits out loud. Together, they create a friendship that feels like a late-night road trip with no destination, unexpected, funny, philosophical, and absolutely unforgettable. One moment, they're debating the nature of the soul, the next, they're laughing so hard they can't breathe. Their connection is fluid, sometimes intense, sometimes casual, but always sincere. They can talk for hours or sit in shared silence with zero awkwardness. He brings the truth, she brings the mystery. He's grounded by her depth, she's uplifted by his lightness. And yet, because their connection runs deep, the line between friendship and something more often blurs. This is where things can get complicated. Sagittarius is not known for emotional clarity, and Pisces can sometimes confuse platonic intimacy with romantic energy, especially when the bond feels so unique, so emotionally charged. If one catches feelings and the other doesn't, or isn't ready to admit it, things can unravel fast. A single misread moment, a poorly timed confession, or an unmet expectation can send shockwaves through their friendship. The challenge lies in communication. Sagittarius avoids emotional heaviness, Pisces sometimes drowns in it. He may joke his way around her feelings, she may retreat rather than confront his ambiguity. Misunderstandings can build quietly, then explode suddenly. It's not that they don't care, it's that they speak different emotional languages. One values freedom, the other, emotional security. If these values collide without compassion, the friendship may suffer. But if they can hold on to honesty, if they can name what's happening without fear or pretense, their friendship can endure almost anything. Because at its core, their connection is built on mutual admiration and deep spiritual resonance. They teach each other. They stretch each other. And they keep coming back to each other, again and again, not because they have to, but because it just feels right. In a world of surface-level connections, the friendship between a Sagittarius man and a Pisces woman is a deep, strange, beautiful thing. It's not always easy. But it's always real. And sometimes, that's more than enough. Business, vision meets instinct. Now let's talk dollars, destiny, and a little bit of divine madness. When a Sagittarius man and a Pisces woman walk into a business venture together, it's never just about numbers. It's about creating something that means something, a brand, a message, a movement. This pairing in the professional world is where wild vision meets emotional genius, where innovation flirts with chaos, and where success is often either a spectacular win or a spiritual lesson in what not to do. There's rarely an in-between. It's all in or all fall, and somehow, they're both okay with that. The Sagittarius man walks into business like he's already 10 steps ahead. He's the visionary, the big thinker, the "what if we did this completely different" guy. Strategy to him is less about process and more about momentum. He thrives on risk. He lives for the pitch, the launch, the adrenaline of innovation. His charisma makes him the natural frontman. He can sell, persuade, rally a team, and charm investors with nothing but a whiteboard and a wild idea. He's bold enough to walk into a boardroom with nothing but passion and still walk out with a handshake and funding. In his mind, rules are suggestions, and failure is just research in disguise. Sagittarius doesn't fear loss because he doesn't dwell on it. He's already thinking of the next angle, the next opportunity. He's the guy pulling all-nighters to finish a pitch deck, if he remembers to make the pitch deck at all. His strength lies in vision, not logistics. But give him a goal worth chasing, and he'll burn through the obstacles with the enthusiasm of a man on a mission. Enter the Pisces woman, floating into the frame like an oracle in a power blazer. Her strength isn't loud, it's deep. She doesn't just understand people, she feels them. Clients, customers, audiences, she reads them like open books. She can predict how a campaign will land before it's launched. She senses the market's mood without needing a spreadsheet. While Sagittarius is brainstorming world domination, Pisces is quietly fine-tuning the message, adjusting the vibe, ensuring that every choice feels not just smart, but soulful. She's the creative pulse behind the curtain, the one writing the copy, curating the visuals, or dreaming up an emotionally resonant brand story that audiences don't just buy, but believe in. She's artistic, intuitive, often ahead of her time. Give her a vague vision, and she'll turn it into an immersive experience. But she's also sensitive to energy, and if the environment turns too fast-paced or aggressive, she may withdraw or feel overwhelmed. She needs time to process, reflect, and reconnect with purpose. Now here's the catch, both Sagittarius and Pisces are, in their own ways, deeply allergic to structure. Budgets? Boring. Spreadsheets? Suffocating. Deadlines? Who made those rules? The Sagittarius man avoids micromanagement like the plague. He resents systems that feel restrictive. The Pisces woman, while more adaptable, tends to get lost in her own creative process and may struggle to keep everything grounded. Both are visionary, but neither is naturally inclined to follow a conventional roadmap. Without structure, their business may feel like a brilliant idea floating on a cloud with no GPS. There's a lot of dreaming and doing, but not always the boring, necessary middle, organizing, budgeting, scaling. This is where a third player is often essential, someone grounded, detail-oriented, Earth sign Y. A Capricorn CFO, a Virgo project manager, a Taurus investor. Someone who doesn't mind setting timelines, building infrastructure, and asking the tough questions about ROI. But here's where the potential becomes astonishing, when they find that balance, when Sagittarius is free to lead with fire, when Pisces is free to flow with intuition, and when someone else keeps the wheels on the track, they're capable of building something truly revolutionary. Not just successful, but impactful. Not just profitable, but purposeful. This duo shines in fields that blend humanity, creativity, and bold messaging. Think humanitarian startups that disrupt systems, art collectives with social impact, indie film production houses that tell untold stories, eco-conscious fashion lines, holistic wellness brands, or even mystical tech startups that blur the line between science and soul. If it's heartfelt and boundary-pushing, they're in their element. Pisces ensures the emotional integrity of the brand, while Sagittarius pushes the world to pay attention. Together, they create businesses that don't just function, they feel. They tell stories, start movements, and leave an imprint not just on markets, but on hearts. Their work often inspires because it stems from a place of authenticity, passion, and fearless dreaming. Yes, it will be messy at times. Yes, they'll have to learn how to stay grounded. But if they stay aligned, communicate honestly, and invite the right kind of help, their partnership can leave a legacy. Not everyone will understand their process. But those who experience what they build will never forget it. So, are they compatible? Here's the truth that astrology books don't always tell you: a Sagittarius man and a Pisces woman aren't the zodiac's most obvious match, but they just might be one of its most transformative. This isn't a seamless, made-in-heaven pairing where everything flows without effort. No, this is a relationship that demands attention, courage, and emotional growth. It's complex, often confusing, occasionally chaotic, and entirely unforgettable. This isn't the kind of love that makes sense on paper. But love, real love, rarely does. Sagittarius and Pisces operate on different emotional frequencies, but that doesn't make them incompatible, it just means they have to listen more closely. He's ruled by fire and wanderlust, she by water and wonder. He lives in movement, she thrives in emotion. He seeks answers in the world outside, she looks for meaning within. He'll challenge her to step out of her comfort zone, to risk more, to live louder. She'll challenge him to slow down, to feel more deeply, to consider the quiet wisdom of stillness. He pushes her to act, she teaches him to reflect. These are not minor exchanges, they're paradigm shifts. Their compatibility depends on whether they're willing to embrace, not change, each other's essence. He can't try to turn her into someone less sensitive or more predictable. She can't demand he become someone who sits still for too long. Instead, if they each allow the other to remain whole, while learning from the contrast, the relationship becomes something greater than the sum of its parts. He doesn't need another fire to match his blaze, he needs her water to cool, soften, and give shape to his passion. She doesn't need another dreamer to drift with her, she needs his fire to light the path forward and keep her moving toward her potential. But this journey isn't without tension. Misunderstandings will happen. Sagittarius might laugh when Pisces needs comfort, not realizing his humor feels dismissive. Pisces might retreat into silence when Sagittarius needs open communication, mistaking emotional processing for clarity. Timing can be off, intentions misunderstood. He may see her as moody, she may see him as careless. Their very nature can trigger each other's insecurities, his fear of being emotionally trapped, her fear of being emotionally abandoned. These moments will test them, again and again. And yet, When they choose to grow through, not run from, those moments, something extraordinary unfolds. Sagittarius learns to sit with discomfort, to feel without fleeing. Pisces learns to speak up, to trust that her feelings won't scare him away. In each other's presence, they become braver. Not in the loud, flashy sense, but in the quiet, sacred work of choosing to stay, choosing to try, choosing to understand. Their connection won't look like anyone else's. That's part of the beauty. Where others may settle into routine, they are constantly rediscovering each other. One day, they're arguing over plans. The next, they're holding hands under the stars, wondering how they ever lived apart. There's a rhythm to their chaos, a pattern in the mess. And that rhythm? It's growth. Real, raw, imperfect growth. The Sagittarius man doesn't need perfection, he needs honesty. The Pisces woman doesn't need constant reassurance, she needs emotional presence. If they offer each other those things, even when it's hard, even when it's inconvenient, they will forge a love story that transcends charts, signs, and predictions. It won't be smooth. But it will be sincere. So, are they compatible? Not in the way that promises ease. But in the way that promises evolution. And isn't that what real love does? It doesn't just make you happy, it makes you more aware. More open. More you. In the end, if they truly see each other, not the fantasy, not the idea, but the person in front of them, they will find that the most powerful love stories aren't written in the stars. They're written in the daily choices, the shared laughter after a hard day, the willingness to grow together, one imperfect, beautiful, human day at a time.